Hello and welcome to the vlog. One of the most popular things I sometimes do on this vlog is tours and poking around other people's narrowboats, because there's nothing quite as enjoyable as snooping around someone else's home. The trouble is, of course, we are in lockdown, but not to be daunted, we're going to do it virtually because, of course, anyone who's got a boat will be proud of that boat, and that means they'll have photographs and even video of it. So by the magic of telecommunications and a bit of editing, we can still do tours around other people's boats. So for the first in this virtual series, I'm very pleased to welcome via Skype Dimitrios and Carine Theologitis of the narrowboat Galene. Hello!
Hello.
Hello, Dave.
I'll just start by pointing out that Carine and Dimitrios are at their home in Brussels. So the question has to be, if you live abroad, how is it you come to own a narrowboat?
Well, it all started with a botched motorcycle holiday which we were supposed to take in Scotland, and then it rained, so this holiday was cancelled, and we thought, let's hire a narrowboat.
For me, it was the very first time on canal boat, and it was a kind of dream I had, and so I was very pleased that Dimitrios had this wonderful idea. And we were very lucky because it was a fantastic beginning of July in Scotland. It was very sunny. People were very nice, so we had a wonderful first impression.
It was the usual week from Falkirk to Edinburgh, and then back to Falkirk again, and a bit towards Glasgow, but we didn't make it, and we didn't want to press matters too much. So it was really fantastic.
Nonetheless, you got presumably bitten by the bug, and from there somehow said, let's buy one. That's quite a jump.
Yes, although it didn't start like that. We were nearing retirement, and we thought, what shall we do in retirement? Then we looked at each other and we said, this is it.
We had we had the same idea exactly at the same moment. So we said, let's buy a narrowboat. Yeah. So it was a kind of, dream. We had this very good memory. So.
Yeah. And we started with the usual thing, well, will we like it? We don't know. Let's look at long-term hire, and then that was too expensive. And then we thought, well, let's try a second-hand boat. And we looked at boats for a year, and we started seriously considering having a boat built for us.
Oh, what an absolute joy and luxury it must be to be able to do that and say, I'm going to have exactly the boat I want. How did you go? I mean, there's a lot of different boat builders. Some are big, some are small. And then you've got people who build the hulls and people who do the fit outs. How did you come to settle on the people that you did use?
We actually had a pretty good idea of what we wanted to have. So I sat down and made a plan in a sort of a wiggly, pencil plan. And
that we still have.
Yeah, we still have those plans. And the model specification, and we looked around the internet and we sent it to 4 builders. And in the end, we chose one, crafted boats in Stoke Prior of the Worcester Birmingham Canal. And they were very impressive, I have to say. And they also, what we liked is that they do boats from A to Z. So they do the hull, the steel, and the fit out.
There are some builders who purely build hulls and some firms that purely do fit outs, and some people prefer that, whereas for yourselves it was more of an advantage to have it all in one place.
It was more of an advantage, and it turned out to be quite an important advantage actually, because at the last moment, just to give you an idea, a detail, they did a very serious modification of the engine covers, which by the time we had put the hybrid propulsion in and all the sound deadening, because I had specified 6 centimeters of sound deadening and all that, the engine cover proved to be impossible to lift, impossible to open. It was so heavy, so they had to cut it. Actually, they cut it in 6 pieces so that it's manageable. So this is where the fact that they also do the steel really was a very positive thing. Just to give you an example of this.
And what was the rest of the build process like? I can imagine it's both exciting and nail biting at the same time, especially when you're in another country.
Yes, indeed, it was quite a challenge because in first we always agreed. The two of us, we had the same ideas, and it was quite easy to agree, the two of us. But then we had to regularly go to the UK and check the works and bring some modifications and improvements, and also the builder was very, very nice with us, suggested. He had very good ideas and experience, of course, which we hadn't. So he came with good suggestions, and but even now we realize how lucky we were, because being foreigners with absolutely no experience, it could have been a disaster. So, and it was from the very first day to the last one, we had a very, very good relationship with them.
Yeah. The funniest bit was when they would say, well, some people do this, or you may consider doing that, at which point all antennas went up and we said, no, we really need to pay attention.
Very gently shifting you back the way they thought was the better way to do things. It's a long boat, isn't it? And you've gone for an interesting, a semi-cruiser stern, which, if any of my viewers aren't aware with, it's a sort of hybrid between the cruiser stern, big open deck, and the semi-trad, which has sort of side walls at the back, but gives you a place to sit as well. What made you choose the length and a rear of the boat?
A Greek family is by essence a very large family, so we need to have lots of space for the children, cousins, grandchildren, parents, and all the family coming. And this was the first motivation, and then I leave it to you.
Then we thought, well, what's the optimum size? And it was either 57, we go anywhere, or the normal maximum 70. And we thought, well, we can't fit all we want in 57, so we went for the 70. And then Carine said...
No, 69 and a half, because I'm pretty sure that with the fenders and so on, it will be too long anyway. I was not very happy with the 70.
And I was grumbling about it, I have to say, until we did the Birmingham Canal navigations this winter, where the locks are for exactly 70-foot boat. So,
oh my!
If we had the half-foot more, we would have had to lift up the fenders and do stuff. So it was. So that was the choice of length, and the semi-cruiser was because we saw that it would be so much more comfortable if you are having people to entertain, and even when cruising, one of us will be steering and the other one will be sitting on a comfortable cushion. You're not perched somewhere on a sort of 1 foot long end of the boat where you always risk falling into the water or something.
Yeah. Now, speaking of the back deck, you've already mentioned one unusual, I suppose, it's becoming more common aspect of the design. That is, this is a hybrid engine. So you've got a standard diesel engine, as I understand it, coupled with an electric motor which is kind of wrapped round the propeller shaft, and then a big bank of batteries and a load of electronics controlling it all. Is that correct understanding?
That is an excellent description of the system. It's actually by now quite standard package by Hybrid Marine. When we specified it in 2016, it was actually one of the first installations that we did with the Barus engine. And you have the diesel, which is a 50 horsepower diesel, and then onto it you have the gearbox, and after the gearbox you have the electric motor driven by a belt. And as long as the diesel is running, the electric motor turns into a generator and charges the batteries. And if you turn off the diesel with the same throttle, with the same Morse, you just disengage the diesel and you just turn the electric motor.
And had you specifically, right from the outset, thought that's what you wanted, or did the builder suggest that to you? Or
I have long worked in European inland waterways policies, and greening of transport is one of the things. So we thought it's not that bad to have an electric some sort of electric propulsion. We are so happy with it, you can't imagine, because, for example, when you do locks, you don't need to run the engine.
Yes.
So you have no diesel fumes, no noise, although the boat is very silent with all the sound deadening that it has, but there is no noise. And when we cross some lovely villages, we just turn off the diesel and go on electric, and you can talk to people on the towpath, and it's really incredible. Just to give you an idea, it's got 800 ampere hours of battery capacity at 48 volts, which is the equivalent of 3,200 at 12 volts.
I was going to say, that is a lot. That is a lot.
Yes, it is quite a lot. We never, when we normally cruise, where we rarely stay in place for more than a couple of days, we rarely go below 70% of the battery capacity, if at all.
So that's electric cooking and things like that.
Yes, fridge running all the time, and the 5 kilowatt inverter is on all the time.
Washing machine.
The picture of the batteries, they look like traditional lead acids, and when I've shown previous hybrid boats or even a pure electric boat before on the channel, people deluge the comments saying, oh, why are they still using this old technology? Why aren't they lithium batteries and things like that? Apart from the very obvious answer, well, lithium would be fantastically expensive. Is that the sole driver of why you still use the traditional lead acid traction type battery?
I think it is. It is the main reason, because lithium would have cost 5 times as much, at least, to have all those 24 cells. They say that with lithium, which you can deplete to a much higher extent, you can go down to, I don't know, 20% or 10% of the capacity, and they won't suffer. So you don't really need to have all that much. But in theory, these are the so-called traction batteries that you find in forklift trucks and scooters and things like that. And you can, in theory, take them down to 25% without them suffering any damage.
Oh, really? Oh, that's a lot more than I thought.
Yes, yes. I mean, we've never tried it, but...
But in theory you can, yeah.
You fix batteries.
You're supposed to.
There's a lovely photo in the ones you've included of you lying full length in the engine bay. So clearly you're under there cosseting the batteries or something. It's a very funny photo. How you got in there, I'm not quite sure, but it's a very funny photo.
I don't know myself. No, but the batteries are in the cabin. They are not in the engine compartment.
Oh, so are they just behind the engine compartment and just into the main cabin area?
Exactly. They are in a U around the companionway, around the stairs leading from the deck into the salon.
Let's get into the boat and the rest of it. And speaking of stepping down, it's a reverse layout boat. So the first part you come to is a sort of combined dinette and saloon area. And you've got this fantastic L-shaped dinette, which is fairly standard. But then look closely and there's a whole other seat on the wall. This is fantastic. And the table seems to fold out as well. I've not seen that on another boat. Again, was this your design or the builder's?
It is a cross bed, so we have actually 6 berths on the boat. Initially, we wanted to buy, of course, something, nice chairs for the saloon, but at the end we don't need it. We quite like to have the space, and we watch TV sitting on the dinette. Yeah. So it's big enough for 6 people around the table, which is very convenient.
Let's talk about the galley. Again, it's unconventional in as much as it's quite industrial looking, isn't it? It's almost like a pro kitchen that's been scaled down for a narrowboat.
So there it was a kind of compromise, because in order to buy the boat, we had to sell the house. We had a quite large house in Brussels. And we decided to sell it, but the style of that house was very industrial. It was white and grey with inox, and Dimitrios wanted to keep a touch of this house in the boat. I'm a bit more for antiques and so on, but anyway. And from the very beginning, we knew that we wouldn't pretend to decorate the boat and to have a traditional British style, because we are foreigners, so we decided to do exactly as we want with our own taste. And as the builder was working with steel, we just asked him to go for this stainless steel, which is very, very convenient. So I can put my very warm dishes on the steel with no problems. We didn't want to have marble or stone or wood or whatever. And the kitchen is quite small compared with big boats that we saw in the Creek Boat Show, for example. But we have everything in it: the oven, the storage, we have the washer dryer, the fridge. So we have all we need.
Convenient.
Yes.
Yeah.
You mentioned electric cooking. Is that like an induction hob or something?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And how do you find that? What are they like?
Oh, it's very convenient. Initially I was not so enthusiastic, because I'm here in I cook on a gas traditional gas hob, but as I said, we have no gas on the boat, and I feel more secure. I must say, I quite like this hob now.
The modern induction hobs are so energy efficient. I mean, I have been following it on the Victron displays, how much it absorbs, and they really just come on and off, and they modulate the power in a way that you can have it running for an hour, or you can even the oven. You can put a roast for 2-3 hours, and and the batteries, well, they barely go down 2-3%. It's.
Can I ask what you do about hot water and heating the boat then? Because I'm just thinking, I didn't notice a stove on board. Am I going mad?
No, I mean, a stove would be very cozy, and we thought long about it. But in the end, because of the dust and the coal, and we wanted carpet on the floor, so we decided against it. The heating is by means of radiators.
But is that electric, or is that a diesel like Eberspacher or similar unit?
It's a Mikuni.
And presumably that gives you hot water as well?
And that produces also the hot water. There is a calorifier. It has 3 sources of heat. One is the engine cooling water. The other one is the water from the heater. And the third one is an electric coil. And just to show how much electricity there is on the boat, we also use the electric coil when we're not plugged in.
That was going to be my next question. Can you run that off the batteries as well? But you can.
Yes,
it's only 800 watts. As far as the hot water is concerned, just to give you the attention to detail that the builder put in it, they even came up with a hot water circulation loop, which means that there is a very small pump. So all hot water taps are in a round loop around the boat, and there's a small pump which circulates the hot water. So you have instant hot water. You don't even have to wait for the water to come from the calorifier, which is in the engine bay, to the front bathroom, for example, which can take liters and liters of water or minutes. So you just turn on the tap and you have instant hot water. So they came up with wonderful solutions.
That's ingenious. I know that on my boat I have to run the shower for precisely 7 seconds until the hot water starts coming out. So that's 7 seconds, because I'm not stepping in it cold. That's 7 seconds water wasted. So I like the sound of your system. And actually, speaking of showers and bathrooms, you've got more than one.
Yes, we have 2.
2 bathrooms, and I'm guessing you must have a pump-out toilet. If you're having lots of people on board, composting or cassettes would not work.
No. And again, it's when we have lots of friends or family on board, it's very convenient to have 2 toilets, I have to say.
Yeah, it's 2 toilets with two tanks of 400 liters each.
And your second bedroom, which comes next after that second bathroom, you've then got the second bedroom, and again, very clever, because it it's got 2 single beds, and yet it also looks like it transforms into an office, and it also transforms into a double bed as well. This is the Transformers of narrowboats.
Well, actually, it doesn't
Yes.
transform into double bed.
No.
It's only 2 singles,
Yes.
but one of them transforms into the one which has the waste tank underneath. Can transform into a desk. They have 2 small flaps which make them into how much is it? 75 centimeter beds, so 2.5 foot beds, which are quite comfortable as singles.
Yep.
You even can sit comfortably and work on them. And for this lifting mechanism, it has a sort of very clever mechanism of parallel rods which sort of lift up like this and bring the table to the deployed position, let's say, when you want to.
I think your main bedroom at the front is fairly conventional. I mean, it's a decent sized bed, but other than that, it's fairly conventional, isn't it? It does pull out a bit, but it's not got any funny tricks up its sleeve.
It is a cross bed.
Yes, it's
a standard cross bed you pull out. I mean, there is a corridor which we always close the bed when cruising because we want to be able to cross the boat inside without any obstacle. But it's a cross bed. It's got 2 very large wardrobes on either side, and also little niches, and so that you can put your mobile phone in the evening or your book.
USB plugs everywhere.
There are USB plugs everywhere for charging.
And I noticed a lot of clever use of space under the gunnels where they stick in. There's lots of shelving on yours.
It's again Carine's idea. Because what we thought, many boats have very deep shelves and large storage areas, but in fact, what you need under the gunnel in the kitchen, so opposite the galley, you have a lot of shelving, some of it you can close with a door, and you only need, in fact, 9 centimeters depth, and this can take every can,
jams,
bottles, what have you. You only need this little depth. And the same goes into the bathrooms, for example, for cosmetics, for shampoo and all that. You need an 8 to 9 centimeter deep shelf, and you have all your things nicely stored.
And then there's another neat innovation. I think it's the final one we should mention right at the front in the bow, where many boats would have a gas locker. You've got this fabulous wide opening locker with your bikes inside it.
Again, this is an advantage of having a builder who does the shell, who do the shell themselves. So they, instead of having a conventional either opens at the front or at the top, you can open both.
For the bikes.
And so for the bikes, they are folding electric bikes, and you just dump them in there. And in the meanwhile, it's not just the bikes, but it's the spare propeller, it's the anchor, the chain. And also they have put 2 plugs so that you can charge the bicycles without having to take them out of the locker. I mean, they've done incredible things. Actually, what is very funny is that while designing the boat, as I said, we lived in this loft which had a very big room, and we were able to draw on the floor the plan of the boat life size, so in 1:1. And so one day I took chalk and started drawing the lines, and then we played around with the position of the beds, with the position of the galley. We laid down. I mean, can we cross 2 of us and things like that? So it was. It was quite
good exercise.
Yeah,
it was
quite fun.
Yes.
Just to finish off, then, the boat is called Galene, as I mentioned at the start. The name has meaning for you. Explain that.
Galene is a Greek word which means serenity. And we thought, well, it nicely reproduces our state of mind and also the overriding feeling in the canals, which is a very serene place. Not that it doesn't have its moments of excitement when winds and ice and boats crash into you and all that. So that's something, but the idea is that this is a serene place and the boat is called Serenity.
Oh, it's a lovely boat, it really is, and it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for coming on and letting me peer around your boat. It's been a joy.
Cheerio.
So that is the first boat in what I hope will become a little bit of an ad hoc series for as long as lockdown continues. If you have a boat, it doesn't have to be a narrowboat. If you have an interesting boat of any type, wherever you are in the world, as long as you've got lots and lots and lots of pictures of it and are willing to come on Skype and have a bit of an interview with me, then I would love to hear from you. Send me an email to ihaveaboat2@CruisingTheCut.co.uk. That's ihaveaboat2@CruisingTheCut.co.uk. That's it for this one. Cheerio.